altogether, but you're back now.
If we do it now, we'll just start again, because that way we can get straight.
Okay.
Hello and welcome to the Old and Young Scrum with me, Samuel Baines, Simon Fole, and a very, very special guest in Tom Wood. Hello, Tom. How are you?
I'm good, thanks, lads.
It's always good. Foley, how are you?
Always good. When the sun's out, mate, you can't help but be happy, can you?
No, you cannot. Now, Tom, you've got 200 caps for 200 caps for clubs appearances, Prem appearances, 50 caps for England. Congratulations, first of all, on that big milestone the other day. How are you feeling after that? Was that just another game to you, or was that or did that feel like a big thing? Was it just...
I'll be honest, we don't really keep track of, I didn't know at the time, so it's Premiership caps that's 200 games in the Premiership. I think 48 of those were for Worcester and the others for Northampton. So it's not a stat that you really keep track of. Only the nerds that are at the computers doing all the statos and that. And it wasn't until my old man texted me congratulations after the game that I realised that was the case. So no, it wasn't a big deal at the time. It is something I'm very proud of, and it is significant, but it's not something that I was sort of building up in the build up to the game. So it didn't really affect performance or anything like that. It was just a nice thing to reflect on after the game.
I think, Sam, it's nice when you get your first cap. You never forget that. Your 50th used to be significant because you got a physical cap at the end of the season. And then, if you went on and got to 100, you kind of thought, you'd done well. But when you get to as many as Tom, and your body's aching and you got enough to concentrate on rather than the number. So, but no, it's a phenomenal achievement and good on you. There's not going to be too many of the modern professional we're going to get to that the way the game's going. So it's a good achievement to have that longevity.
Thank you.
You got an amazing game the other day against London Irish. Saints did, and the dedication that you've been shown that you've always shown to the club. You've 12 years at Saints, 12 seasons.
Yeah, this is my 12th season. Yeah.
So your Saints career is 1 year younger than me. So
it's a bit harsh, mate. That's a bit harsh.
Not to feel old.
He's throwing that age thing at us, Tom. It's not good. I get it every week.
Not to make you feel old, but that is crazy considering we're seeing the effects that rugby takes on the body. I remember always going in when I was young and seeing people in massive boots. I think it was David Ribbons, and I'm in hospitality, and he's got this absolutely massive cast on. And you've had massive issues with injury recently, and I think Foley was saying to me the other day you've played 4 games in a row with a damaged toe and things like that.
Yeah, that's kind of par for the course, really. You break bones, fingers and toes, and noses on a fairly regular basis in the forwards. And over the course of my career, I've certainly had a handful of those. There's certain things. There's a kind of saying in rugby: "Are you hurt or are you injured?" And there's a difference. One, you can take the field and carry on playing with one of them. It hurts a little bit, but that's it. Injured means you're sidelined and. You pick up loads of bumps and bruises, and especially in the forwards, in the back row, and you've just got to keep trucking. Sometimes it results in an operation and a bit of time on the physio bed or in the gym, and you've got to show some dedication and some patience and get yourself rehabbed and back to fitness. But the quality of the medical treatment, the physio staff, the S&C staff that get you back up to speed is phenomenal in the professional game, and we're very lucky. At our level to benefit from all of that. Days gone by, if you dislocated a shoulder, that was it. You were long gone. If you did an ACL or an Achilles injury, that was it. Career over. And now it's a few months on the sidelines, few stitches, and you're back out there.
I'm going to tell you now, Sam. Don't take any notice of him. That he was up at Holston Firs he couldn't walk properly. His trainers had half the side cut out because his toe was that big, and I think he had to have an injection in the toe just to get him through a game. So it's different gravy, fella, to what we're used to. I think when I spoke to Tom, I was like, "What on earth's going on with your toe?" And he was still playing that next week. It would have been a call, really, give you a rest and put one of the youngsters on, but they didn't want to, did they? Wanted to roll the Warrior out and kick his ass till the end of the season. I guess, I don't know. Yeah, I guess you can tell now when you can't play.
Yeah, there is a difference, and also there is what you're willing to put up with long term as well. So the toe, I know it's going to be painful at the time. It's going to be very uncomfortable sticking it in my boot and trying to run around with it. But it's not going to affect my quality of life in the future. It's not like it's not like a spinal injury or a concussion or something like that, where you do have to be careful these days. Well, it's certainly a hot topic these days, and it's not going to render me sort of an invalid after rugby. Whereas at that, a toe, I've just got to deal with the pain, basically, as uncomfortable as it is. Whereas, if you're talking about your mental health, your concussion, spinal injuries and things like that are going to affect your long term after rugby, then you've got to certainly think about those things a bit more carefully.
Yeah, you're kind of playing yourself down there. That's amazing dedication when you've got a toe hanging out half side your boot and you're still running around for good old Saints for me to watch on the telly on a Saturday or a Friday evening.
And me, for if I was playing against Tom and I was in the back row and I saw his toe hanging out, mate, I'd be all over that with my cabbage kickers, just giving him a little tweak, letting him know. That's what you do. You try and gain an advantage, and if you saw that, then I'm sure they were, they weren't treading lightly around you. Oh, mind his toe! Don't, whatever you do, be careful. Don't tread on him.
Oh.
So, yeah, I don't envy that. I don't miss that.
I was talking to Dylan and he was telling me some old stories about what happened, about what used to happen at the Worcester camps when he was 16.
A few good scraps there.
Yeah. Apparently it was just more of a brawl than rugby.
Yeah.
I do want to move on to the topic of how Saints are back on their feet. Saints are playing amazing rugby. Is morale in the team just up? What do you think makes the Saints play this way? Is it just morale? Is it wanting to play? Is it, well, I get that lads always want to play. Is it just having that energy, feeling it really ready to go?
I think what it comes down to is just a bit of continuity and gelling as a team and persevering with the tactics and the game plan and things. And even when we were on that terrible losing streak before Christmas, back end of last season, we knew we weren't a million miles away. So if results weren't going our way, we'd certainly had a huge dip in form. And in any other camp at any other time, that would have probably sunk the ship a little bit. But the guys were always composed, always relaxed, despite the frustration and disappointment, because we felt like we were on the right path and we were just inches away from clicking. We had a chance to regroup after that break in the season. Got a few injured boys back and whatever, and just persevered with it. And then once you get that one win and you get a few results go your way and you get that little bit of confidence back and the tries start coming, now we're on a pretty good run of form. We're not quite where we want to be. We're just outside the top four, and that top four is exactly, that's the target for this year. That's the minimum standard. So we want top four. We want semi-final rugby, and then it's anyone's game once it's knockout. But the way we're playing in attack at the minute is really exciting. We're playing with a great ambition. We've got to shore up our defence a little bit because despite scoring a bucket load of tries in the last 3 or 4 weeks, we've also conceded too many. So. That's, if you're going to win championships, you're going to win premierships, you need to keep the score down. You can't be conceding 3-4 tries a game.
How much of it, Tom, do you put down to we were struggling up front at times with scrummage and line out, and Matt Fergie's come in, and I don't know how much influence he's had over Boydie to let him have a bit more of a free rein, but we look bloody strong now up front. The scrummage and the line out is different to where it was. Has he had a big influence, or has it been player led, or is it coach led? Where's that fit from?
So Fergie's scrum diligence has always been there, but because when Boydie first came in, he gave a lot of youngsters a go. we brought a fairly untried and tested group in. They were very young, and we didn't have that physicality and that dominance up front. And we felt like our strength as a team was to play away from set piece quite a lot. So we never really challenged other teams. We just got the ball in and out of scrums, got it away, in the hope of striking out wide, having a dominant attack from our backs, and that we saw that as our strength. But it got to the point where you look across our pack now, and we've got a monster pack with the likes of Nick Ezekwe on the back row, Courtney when he's fit, Alex Moon, Big Appy, Dave Ribbons, Erin Painter up front with the stalwarts like Alex Waller, Paul Hill, Mikey Hayward, Sam. That's a big pack. And I guess it just dawned on us that we should be using our scrum more as a weapon. We were being okay. We were getting a pass grade there. We were par, but we weren't really putting it on teams. And in the last couple of months, we've reversed that and said, you know what, we're going to start going for teams. We're going to be, see if we can get a little smell of blood and get after teams and put them under the pump at scrum time. Because once you're playing off a scrum with a penalty advantage, or off a dominant maul with a penalty advantage, you've got the freedom to throw the Hail Mary, the big miss pass, or whatever you want to do, chance your arm with a crossfield kick, knowing that you've got that advantage to come back to. So it's a completely different mindset when you have that. And it's just a case of our team developing and growing and maturing, and some of those lads coming into their own and feeling like they can dominate in that space.
Yeah, the couple of guys you mentioned there, Nick Ezekwe, I mean, he's definitely odds on for going back, but he's been bloody good, and he's been a nice addition to have with his athleticism and his work rate and his engine. And yeah, he's always been a good player. But is there an inkling that he might stay if Sarries don't go up, or is he definitely for the?
As far as I'm aware, and I don't want to speak for him or out of turn, but I think it's pretty much a done deal that he will go back. It's all in writing, and those contracts will be very expensive to try and turn around now. I think he's really enjoyed his time here. I think he's been a great addition for us, like you say, phenomenal athlete. But he's also come from that high performance and winning environment down at Sarries, where he knows what winning's all about. He knows what European rugby and Premiership rugby championships, what it takes to get those under your belt. So it's been nice to have somebody come in and offer some little different perspectives on things. But more than anything, he's just a good lad that's ripped in and adopted the team, and the team have adopted him pretty quickly. So we've enjoyed having him around. I don't know what happens if, for example, the Premiership's ring fenced or Sarries don't come up, or all those different complications that could affect his contract. I don't know what clauses or whatever, or what it might cost us to keep him.
If I just take it away from the business side there, and we look at the rugby again, Saints, they play these really simple techniques that you're taught every day when you're down on a Sunday, but they play them to such a level that they become these magnificent, kind of not decorative, that's the wrong word, magnificent, beautiful plays that can be molded and fitted to so many situations that become such a technical mindset. And it's not just the backs looking pretty, chucking the ball about, it's also how we're playing how you guys are playing in the forwards at the moment, and how we seem to be using a really nice of this. Is that we strive for as a team, to be able to try and use both?
Yeah, it's all about balance, and it's all about variation, and being able to keep a team guessing and not let them ever plant their feet. So you also want to be able to adapt to the team you're playing against. If you're playing against a big heavy pack, you want to run them around a little bit. If you're playing against a slightly more lightweight pack, then you want to go and put it on them up front. And we hopefully have the ability to do that now in most situations. We've gone away to Exeter and played against a big pack and managed to get some real physicality into them, front up at scrum and line out maul time, pick and go defence on our line, and get a win down there. And we've also played in 40 pointers, throwing the ball around wide to wide. One thing that we do say at the Saints, though, is your game's got to go forward. So it's all very well having rapid wingers, likes of Ollie Slightholme at the minute carving up, and George Furbank at fullback, but we always talk about earning the right. So you've got to have players facing up and down the pitch. We talk about going north-south, with your running lines. And then it's not about jouet or just playing sevens, globetrotters. It's about choosing the right option at the right time. And you've got to earn that by doing the hard yards first, going forward. And if you've got players alive either side of the ball, you've got a forward carrier that can use his hands, can pass to a forward either side of him or pull it out the back to a number 10 in motion, then you've got genuine threats across the field. And sometimes the right option is stick it up your jumper and carry it as hard as you can. And sometimes it's move the ball, move the point of attack, and keep the opposition moving and guessing.
For me, Sam, if you watch the Saints at the minute, the ability from any one of them to pass either left or right hand and put the ball in front of the player running onto it, so he doesn't have to break speed or break step, is the difference. And that's such a fine margin that doesn't just come. You must train and train and train, just hands all day long. And the one time you need it, it's there. And that's been the difference. That allows people like Slights and all those boys that can run. You've got a ball. If you're running onto a ball in front of you, you're not having to stop. You're not having to slow up. That's the margin you need to get past the opposition. So that's been really encouraging to see. And it comes with confidence. When you ask a prop to do a left-handed spin pass to, like you say, a 10 in the pocket or someone running onto it, and they pull it off. That's all confidence and making us good.
And confidence comes from the coaches encouraging it as well, training and preparing and all that. But a coach that jumps on your back every time you make a mistake and hands out press ups and laps for dropping a ball discourages that ambition. Obviously you want high standards. Nobody drops a ball on purpose, but if you want to practice those offloads in training, if you want to practice those left-hand passes and stuff, you got to accept that there might be the odd mistake with it. So we have a concept in training where early part of the week, particularly Mondays, Tuesdays, it's a lot of conditioning games, a lot of skill-related stuff, and you're encouraged to try things. We have little mini games and drills where you're encouraged to offload, you're encouraged to chuck a big pass or maybe put a kick in. And then later in the week, as we pick the team and we're refining everything and we're preparing for a Friday or Saturday, you bring things right back, and it's all about high performance. Then it's about playing to your ability. So, we often talk about 50-50s in rugby as offloads, but that's that's subjective and relative to the person involved. Sonny Bill Williams' 50-50 might be a bit different to mine or to Paul Hill's. So you got to choose the right tool at the right time. And when you're preparing for game scenario, make sure you're playing it like a game, not like you're having a mess around on the beach.
Of course. Talking about coaching, you've played New Zealand as well for, was it a little while when you were quite young?
I played in North Otago, which is South Island, New Zealand, when I was 18, 19.
Yeah.
For a year.
What's the difference between Southern Hemisphere coaches and Northern Hemisphere coaches? What's it like, the coaching between is?
Well, it does evolve all the time. So at any moment in time, I could have a different answer for you. But I think generally, as rugby went professional in the UK or in Northern Hemisphere, and there was such a huge emphasis on set piece and graft, and we play in the winter months and everything, and it's brutal. Set piece, physicality up front, and structure with the kind of main focuses. We also focus quite heavily on getting bigger and stronger in order to put that game on the field. So there's an emphasis on structure, on size, and on brutality and attrition up here. Whereas I think Southern Hemisphere, particularly New Zealand, was more about moving the ball, keeping the ball alive, skill level. So I guess that's something that Chris Boyd's brought into Saints as well. Now, I think across the board, most English and European teams now are moving away from that bigger, faster, stronger mindset and structured set piece orientated games. Everyone's moving the ball and playing it now. But I think it's taken the European clubs a little while to adapt back the other way. Whereas I think Southern Hemisphere Super Rugby has always been played with that philosophy. It's very easy to take a Super Rugby player that's coached and drilled to chuck the ball around, to throw offloads, to play fast open rugby, and then apply some structure and some physicality and all the other things, defensive organisation at the level of the All Blacks. It's much harder to take a player that plays structure and real tight, organised, set piece based rugby week in, week out for his club, and then ask him to play with flair and ambition and vision at international level. That makes sense. You can
That
you can add structure and size and things to a player that's naturally got flair and plays that every week. It's very hard to, at the drop of a hat, introduce flair and vision and everything to a structured player at international level. And I think that's where England in the past had fallen short and are now catching up and starting to get their act together again.
I watch a bit of the Southern Hemisphere rugby, the Super Rugby down there. I also occasionally watch League, and I think you see the perfect examples there of adding flair. I know we talk about Union, but if you look at the League, if you look at the Super League here, it hasn't got as much flair as something like the NRL because they're still in that stage. But I feel like rugby in the Northern Hemisphere is becoming this very creative rugby. I do think that we still use the set piece a lot more, as you did say, but we are designing our own technique and our own styles to offer that. I would say
I think it took Boydie a little while to realise the importance of set piece and scrum up here. It's amazing, really, for someone that's lived and breathed rugby all of his life for him to adapt to the difference in Northern Hemisphere rugby and to start seeing the opportunities and the best bits up here, whilst we're trying to take the best bits from his experience down south as well. So, just perhaps took us a little while to gel and to get our heads around exactly what tactics and game plan we want each week.
Yeah, that sounds perfect because if you're taking both the best worlds, you're always going to end up with something good, aren't you? So I love that. We're starting to see a lot more creativity in the Northern Hemisphere, and we're starting to see, but we're keeping those levels of physicality. Foley, you played in a time when it was a lot more based around the set piece. What do you think of this?
It was interesting for me, back in when I was playing. There's three rules for me. It was don't kick, and don't kick. You watch these guys now, and you'll occasionally see a flanker or number 8 put a kick in or do different things. So New Zealand was always the benchmark when I was playing, and I played in a couple of games where we played a Leicester Northampton side against one of the New Zealand touring sides, and it was like chasing shadows. They were that far ahead, and now I don't think they are. I think now if you look at England have dealt a hand to New Zealand in the World Cup. Northern Hemisphere is definitely catching up, and we're closing that skills gap. It'll be interesting to see on the next round of when we're all back into international rugby, just how far England have come. You can't really judge anything on the Six Nations. The next time round, it is interesting to see. The All Black boys that have come to us haven't made a mark. They haven't dominated. The two Franks boys, for instance, they came and really, as a supporter, you'd think, well, I didn't really see their true potential. Well, I know that's a difficult one for you to comment on, Tom, but as professionals that they are and 100%ers, did they not suit? Did they not suit Northampton? Not suit the style? What do you feel was it?
I think
a bit too late in their career?
I think it is a difficult transition for a front row to make. Someone that's played a lot of rugby in the Southern Hemisphere and then coming up into Premiership, it's a very different mindset, as we've discussed. It's a different rate of attrition and things. They're both, unfortunately, had fairly significant injuries. Owen's ruptured his Achilles. Oh no, Liz Frank it is. It's slightly different. It's a foot bone in his like a metatarsal. I don't know the exact details. It's called a Liz Frank injury, and it's fairly serious. So, a bit stop-start, not really got going. But I tell you what, both of those guys brought a huge amount to the camp, even when not fit and not playing. They're experienced, double World Cup winners. Guys that have been around the highest levels of rugby. So they both added a huge amount of value in terms of that young team that we talked about earlier. Just sort of mentoring, coaching, setting standards, and showing the way. Both of those guys love their S&C. They write their own weights programs. They do their own, organise their own food. Ben in particular would bring his own Tupperwares of food every day. Really serious about his nutrition, his diet, his performance, and all those kind of things. S&C schedules, kind of above and beyond as a professional, and that rubs off on people. So while we perhaps didn't see the absolute best of them on the pitch, we certainly got plenty out of them behind the scenes.
I personally quite like the Franks brothers. When I was younger, I played prop, so looking at the Franks and going, "Oh, we got 2 World Cup winners, props, top level, 2 brothers coming to the Saints." I was over the moon. And when they did play, I love watching them play. I did try and watch out for the more technical things in the scrum, like Dad kept telling me to. But we don't see what goes on behind that curtain. And behind that curtain, when you've got those guys who are bringing their own Tupperware for nutrition, writing their own weights program, doing their S&C, however many hours a day, trying to become these physical and mental men of steel, that must have such an impact on camp. I don't know what to say on Foley's part about.
As slightly aging athletes and stuff. Yeah, just saying, as Foley's saying, as slightly aging athletes, it's difficult to step down from World Cups and All Blacks performances and to come across Southern Hemisphere, move your family across the world, and to pick up and really peak for us at Northampton. And I think I can understand that, some fans may not have actually seen the best of them. And that might be a little disappointing for some, but I can tell you that behind the scenes they've certainly given plenty of value to the club. And you think about young guys like Aaron Painter and young Manny that's coming through, playing prop. Having those guys alongside you in the front row in training and scrummaging against you and offering advice and mentoring is pretty invaluable as a youngster coming in.
That must have had such an impact on the young props who are coming in, to be able to have those guys whispering in their ear what to do when, just giving that little bit of advice. I do want to move away from the rugby. I thought I'd never say that in my life, but I just have. Tom, you've done some amazing woodwork. I believe my mum's got one of your chopping boards. You did your testimonial year, 2019. What was amazing? You raised loads of money for charity. I think I've got a bobble out in here somewhere.
I didn't pick the best year for a testimonial, but with the help of a good committee and some good guys helping me out, we did make a fist of it, and we were able to make a couple of decent donations. Despite choosing probably the worst year in history to try and run a testimonial with the whole country in lockdown.
Oh, we all turned up for a breakfast for the World Cup final. Yeah,
I got a good few things in just in time, but I did have some big plans back end of the year, and that fell flat on its face. So, we went into lockdown before a couple of big black tie dinners and summer balls. But the 2 charities that I was looking out for was the Saints Foundation, which are obviously doing some amazing work close to home with underprivileged youths and guys that need to get back into full-time education and need some support. And also the RPA's charity Restart Rugby, which, when the worst happens, like what happened to Michael Fatialofa with a serious spinal injury, when Rob Horn had serious nerve damage to his right arm, those guys pick up the pieces there and help fund those things. But mental health has been such a hot topic in sport, in the world in general, but in sport and in rugby and in retiring players and what have you. Particularly guys that are retiring early through injury, having someone like the RPA and Restart Rugby there to help get you back on your feet and nurse you through those times, pretty invaluable. So I was glad that I could give a little back in those 2 charities.
I know people who have actually benefited from the Saints Foundation, and I've got nothing to say besides from that. It's amazing. And my dad's rugby career was cut short by a pretty nasty neck injury. So I think the RPA, the 2 charities that you chose were just so perfect. They do some amazing things, and I turned up to a couple of the events. I had a great time, felt good as well because it was all for charity, and I knew Dad was spending money on something good. And
well, we had the Woody's restaurant one, which the Saints were very good to put on. You know, jump through a few hoops with some red tape with all the pandemic rules and everything. But we managed to get something off the ground, socially distanced, table service and all of that. We had the eBay auction, we had the World Cup final breakfast. So we did make a good fist of it. But unfortunately, we just missed a couple of the key events towards the end.
oh, it was still a great testimonial, no matter what.
It was I mean, again, for Tom, he got all the big ticket items, the ones down in London that you earn all the money, and you get the high rollers in there that chuck money at it. They're the ones he unfortunately missed out on, but fair play to him. You know, he was in Bugbrook Rugby Club at a social distance with, you know, maybe 20 people there, the ON's toaster. And that's all about, you know, that's all about the man that he kept his commitment, even though he couldn't do the big ticket. He stuck to his guns and did the local stuff. So, yeah, fair play to you. I had a lot of fun, you know, attending what we could. And it almost broke my heart, the one at the Saints. It was the night that Boris said, "That's it, we're back into lockdown." So that was most of my last beer of that year, because after that, we didn't do anything until probably last Monday. So,
It was just, yeah.
Nice hat. That's a really nice hat, Sam. Good lad. I'm glad
Perfect, mate.
Really won. It's all for charity, you know.
Perfect for the occasion.
Yeah, perfect for the occasion.
Woody did say he'd give you his trainer that he's cut the side out of when he broke his toe. He said you can have that. I've seen it. He does quite a lot of chainsaw in it as well. So
Dad spent so much on the silent auction. I'm pretty sure he won half the stuff on there. Like, we're supposed to be going off roading like soon.
Yeah, of course we are. Yeah.
Won a dinner. I've got like one of your bags upstairs that I won somehow. I don't know. I just turn up to these things and walk away with stuff.
Sam, what are you going to do?
As soon as all the restrictions and things are lifted and we can actually do those things, even though national restrictions get lifted, sometimes at Saints we still have to be extra careful because of the nature of what we do. We're in testing pools and things, so you know, if I'm caught out having beers or not socially distancing or not wearing masks and things, you know, we can actually get games cancelled and points deducted and things like that. So I'm not actually sure when those things get lifted, but as soon as they do, we need to crack on and get some of them auction items fulfilled. Bit of off-roading, couple of nights out with dinners.
Have a good
when you do the off-roading, Sam, see if you can talk him into taking his mog. That is one hell of a bit. He probably won't take it.
Take down the Lamborghini. He was going to go chuck the Lamborghini Urus around.
I'm not sure what he's got one of them. I haven't seen it in the garage yet.
Crane it in the back of the mog.
Yeah.
I think with that, we've talked about the charity, we've talked about rugby as a whole, we've talked about the amazing Saints, the amazing work you did with your testimonial. We've talked about differences between Northern and Southern Hemisphere rugby. I think this is perfect time to end the podcast. Thank you ever so much, Tom, for coming on. You've been outstanding.
No
worries. Thanks for having me. Enjoyed it.
And thanks.
Just one thing before we close. Just one thing before we go. Tom, I wonder if you'd do us a favour. Myself and Sam, in one of these podcasts, we're going to talk about our preferred Lions team. So if you could have a think and maybe jot 15 players down that you think would start the Lions, we'll compare to ours and see, and then maybe we'll have a beer on it or a Coca-Cola for you, Sam, and it all kicks off. See who's the closest.
Nice. Yeah, I'll give it a crack.
Okay.
I don't actually watch enough rugby these days, so I'll have to. I'll probably be picking a load of guys that have retired, but yeah, I'll give it a crack.
Give it a crack. Okay, excellent.
That's amazing. So we're going to unbind from this scrum, considering all forwards. That's pretty suiting. And we'll leave it at that. Thank you ever so much, Tom. Thank you, Foley, for spending another evening talking to me. Have a good day, everyone.
Cheers, guys. Thank you.